In a town forgotten by time, where the streets were paved with a quiet sort of sadness, there was a hospital that smelled of old rain and unspoken grief. This is where we meet Ada. She was a young woman with a spirit much older than her years, moving through the sterile hallways like a ghost, her presence a soft hum against the loud silence of suffering. Every day, she tended to bodies and souls, watching as some found their way back to health, while others faded into memory. But one patient was different. His name was Mr. Keene. He was a man hollowed out by loss, a shell of who he once was. An accident had stolen his wife and son, and with them, his will to live. When Ada first saw him, he was already a ghost, his face turned to the wall, his silence a fortress against a world that had taken everything. Other nurses, worn down by his refusal to engage, had retreated, leaving him to the quiet darkness he seemed to crave. But Ada saw something more than a difficult patient. She saw a heart breaking in silence. She couldn't force him to speak, couldn't heal the wound that festered deep inside him. So, she did the only thing she could. She started leaving little notes on his bedside table, small paper lifelines tossed into his sea of sorrow. The first one was simple: "You are not alone." The next day, another appeared: "Your pain matters." And then, "You are still loved." She expected nothing in return. It was an act of faith, a whisper into the void. 4 days, the notes sat untouched, silent witnesses to his grief. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, a change began. A shift in the air. Ada would enter his room and find his shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. He was still silent, but the fortress was beginning to crumble. The tears were the first sign of life, the first crack letting a sliver of light into his self-imposed darkness. Then, one morning, something was different. Beside the usual untouched breakfast tray, there was a small, crumpled piece of paper. Ada's heart skipped a beat as she carefully unfolded it. The handwriting was shaky, as if drawn from a place of immense effort. It read, "Thank you for seeing me when I disappeared." In that moment, the sterile hospital room felt like the most sacred place on earth. It was more than a thank you, it was a resurrection. A man who had vanished into his own grief was acknowledging that he was still there, seen by a stranger who refused to let him go. For Mr. Keene, this was the first step on a long road back to hope. He started eating a little, sitting up in bed, sometimes even looking out the window at the world he had shut out. For Ada, it was a profound affirmation. It was a reminder that kindness, in its purest, most unassuming form, could reach places that medicine and science never could. It wasn't about grand gestures, but about the simple, human act of bearing witness to another's pain. They never exchanged many words. Their connection was built on these small, written exchanges. His notes became more frequent, sharing fragments of memories of his family, the love he still carried. Ada learned about his son's laugh, his wife's love for gardening. Through these shared secrets, he wasn't just a patient. He became a person again, not defined by his tragedy, but remembered for his love. Ada felt a bond with him that transcended her professional duties. She was no longer just a caregiver. She was a keeper of his story. But life, as it often does, holds its own fragile, unpredictable rhythm. Just as hope began to bloom in that small, sterile room, Mr. Keene's weary heart, which had carried so much sorrow, finally gave out. He passed away peacefully in his sleep. The news hit Ada with an unexpected force. It felt like a failure, a cruel twist of fate. Had she given him hope only for it to be snatched away? The grief was sharp, personal. She had lost not just a patient, but a friend she had come to know through his written words. Lost in her sorrow, she went to his now empty room to say a final goodbye. The silence was heavier than ever before. As she smoothed the sheets on his bed, her hand brushed against something tucked under the pillow. It was another note. This one was different. It was addressed to her. With trembling hands, she opened it. The message was clear and strong, a final testament from a soul she had touched. "You saved me," it read. "Even if I had only a few days left, I lived again because of you. Don't be sad. Be proud. You showed me the light." Tears streamed down Ada's face as she clutched the note to her chest. They weren't tears of failure, but of a deep, resonant understanding. She hadn't saved his life in the way doctors and medicine aim to. She had done something arguably more important. She had saved his soul from despair. She had given him a reason to feel human again, to feel loved again, even for a short while. In his last days, he wasn't just waiting for the end. He was living. This story isn't about the miracle of a cure. It's about the miracle of connection. It teaches us that true kindness isn't about fixing every problem or saving everyone. It's about reaching out and touching a heart so deeply that it feels seen, that it remembers its own worth. Empathy is not a weakness. It's the quiet, powerful language of the soul. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness, a simple note, a gentle word, a moment of recognition, is the only light someone sees in their darkest hour. It's a light that can make even a few last days feel like a lifetime. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more content that explores the power of the human spirit.